Hello and welcome to Expressions. We are joined today by Shoba Narayan, author of best-selling titles such as Monsoon Diary and Nama Bangalore, The Soul of a Metropolis. An alumni of Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism, Shoba is also a columnist with leading Indian and international publications. But she's more than just a writer, a self-proclaimed birdwatcher, wine drinker, and gadget geek. Shoba also founded and co-created a website called Project Loom, which documents the weaving traditions of India. Without further ado, let's talk to Shoba on the Expressions podcast.
Hi, welcome to Expressions. Today, I'm joined by Shoba Narayan. We're looking forward to this very enriching session with her. Welcome, Shoba, to our session.
Thank you.
You're a writer, bird watcher, wine taster, gadget geek. So many passion. How do you make time for all of it?
So bird watching in Bangalore usually happens on weekends.
Okay.
Wine drinking happens in the evening.
Yeah.
And gadget geek is a lifetime thing, so I just keep tab like all of us journalists do. Writing takes up most of my daytime, or things related to writing. So that's how I do it.
Okay.
How did you fall in love with wine? So, I lived in New York City for many years, and wine is a part of the culture. The great news was when I moved to Bangalore, here we have grower vineyards outside Bangalore. We have Big Bandani on the other side. Bangalore as a culture is called the pub city. So unlike Chennai where I grew up, wine drinking is not viewed with a sort of, it's not to be done. So then I started learning about it. Now I'm part of two wine groups. One of the wine groups is called the Wine Connoisseurs. Even though it sounds pretentious, it's actually just a group of friends. And we seriously talk and try to learn about wine. We taste blind, for example. We try to understand the smelling and the tasting of wine. We learn about history, those kind of things. So that's how I do it.
Anything interesting that you came across in your learning for wine?
So one thing we are doing that is interesting to Bangalore viewers is we want to do a blind tasting of the top wines of India and then see which one comes on top. In the wine world, as in the spirits world or the beer world, there's a tendency to look abroad and say the best ones come from France or Italy. Now the wine market in India is mature, especially in Nashik. Also Bangalore is number 2. There are homegrown vineyards that have been producing wine now for the last 15 years. So they are also matured a bit in terms of their growing techniques. So we thought we'd do a blind tasting, by which I mean that you can't look at the label and say, oh, this is more expensive, so this will be a better wine. Then we drink it and a group of 10 of us, we vote on it. So that's a good way to do it.
But do you think wine is getting extinct because of climate change?
So wine is, climate change is a big issue and people are trying to grow more sustainably and organically. In Bangalore, wine may get extinct because the beer culture is so strong. I wrote an article about the breweries of Bangalore and we went on a brew hop. And everywhere you go, it is huge, 10,000 square feet plus, filled with young people. Wine is kind of viewed as a little bit more fuddy-duddy and older because it's more expensive to buy. I mean, good wine bottle costs 2,000 rupees. You can have a good beer for 300 rupees. So the challenge for wine, besides climate change, like you said, Neha, is how do you make it accessible to young people? And the way people are saying we'll do it is we'll also bottle wine in cans like beer. Not sure how that experiment is going to go.
And do you personally prefer aged wine or good wine?
So aged wine is always a wonderful thing to have. It's harder to get in India. Most of us bring it from abroad. And then we try to keep it in our cellars for a few years. But the trend in the wine world now, especially in the Western world, is you want to buy wines that you can drink now. People want to go have less things, especially sub 30, sub 20 people. They don't want to collect things. So they want to buy a bottle, drink it that evening and be done with it. Aged wine, you need a cellar. So I do a bit of both.
The most interesting discussions you had over great wines.
So the reason I like wine, everybody has a game in wine. So some people are in it because they are collectors. They want to buy the $10,000 a bottle and they collect it, and that's. My game in wine is, I think all of us as a species we began with the nose. We began with smelling. When a baby comes out, it smells first.
Yeah.
All animals smell first. I think now we are in such a sight-oriented world that we are losing our sense of smell. So my game in wine is there a way I can smell a glass and I can actually say, okay, this is a Cabernet Sauvignon, this is a Shiraz, this is a Pinot Noir. So my game in wine is I would like to get to a point where I can smell a bottle of wine and say, okay, this is this type of wine. That is beginner level. There are people in the wine world, including an Indian called Rajat Par, who now lives in California. He can smell a glass and he will say, oh, this is a 2017 vintage from this producer in Burgundy. And this is the grape is, of course, Pinot Noir. So there are levels. So as with any hobby, I think what grabs you is the learnable possibilities and the possibility for improvement.
And give us 3 ways to appreciate wine more, even more.
Okay, I would say buy any bottle of wine and instead of just chugging it, take a minute and articulate what you're smelling and tasting. I think children do this. A school kid once told me, this smells like the floor of a temple. And so most of us just sip, especially in social situations. So if you want to become serious about wine, force yourself to articulate. It does not come easy. Like I'll ask some school kids when I go, I'll say, what does this smell like? They'll say, Auntie, it smells like wine. I said, no. Which type? So then they'll say, okay, it smells like some berries. So force yourself to do that. That would be a killer app.
And we were getting on to how do you make time for so many passions? So
Yeah.
would you like to
So wine is an evening drink, and I don't drink every day. Most likely once a week in the company of friends. So that's fine. I read about it. I write a column about it for a magazine called Sommelier India.
Okay.
Then bird watching is weekend usually, and also in the early morning from my balcony. Bangalore is blessed with a lot of nature lovers. There are spider experts, ant experts, butterfly experts, tree experts. So Sundays I'll go to Lal Bagh and I will engage in bird watching. I'll learn a lot. During the day, like you, it's mostly writing. Yeah, and keeping tabs of what's happening. Yeah. So.
And how are you such a gadget geek? Like, what do you like about it, and what's the new thing?
Yeah, I think gadgets have always. I trained as a sculptor.
Okay.
Neha. So I'm very. I'm used to using my hands, and I'm used to using tools.
Yeah.
And I think gadgets are an extension of that, and they interest me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's. But apps interest me in particular, especially now there are apps coming out of India, like our DigiAdra. It's a fantastic app, and I think it's better than what's coming out of it. Then there are apps which tell you when an older person falls. There are apps where a tree will grow for every hour that you don't use your app. So then essentially, so they make it fun because all of us are worried about screen time and being addicted. I'm addicted as well. So I do these apps to help me stop. So it's so ironic that an app is going to help you stop your screen time. But yeah.
But very nice, very interesting ones actually.
You said that your early life was in Chennai. You were surrounded by aesthetics, right?
So can you share how this shaped your career and how did it bring you back to loom, textiles and looms?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Chennai too.
Yeah.
I think Chennai is unapologetic. It used to be in the 80s, unapologetically traditional. It was not trying to be another city.
Yeah.
And there were enough of it. So I grew up in Adyar, where all the women in my family generally wore saris. They would even sleep in saris. Now, of course, the house coat has taken over. But it was wearing a certain type of ring with 7 stones, wearing your Mangal Sutra, wearing jewelry, all of it, wearing a bindi. It was a very clear sense of who I am.
Yeah.
In my generation and in the coming generations, what I see is when we go abroad, we remove bindi, we wear t-shirt, pant. Then when we come back and go to a family wedding, you wear bindi, sari. In the middle somewhere, you wear salwar kameez. So there is
shift.
So you don't know who you are and you sort of adapt to place. I think aesthetics happen when you have a signature look, like Audrey Hepburn had her pearls and her dress.
Yeah.
Usha Uduk with her big bindi and a sari. If you have a signature, that is an aesthetic. And I grew up with that kind of a signature.
Yeah. You have a diverse education background in psychology, arts, journalism. How has this shaped your writing?
Yeah. So, psychology, I think I would believe is a great background for journalism because, we talk to people all the time.
Yeah.
And psychology still interests me. I'm taking online courses about dream analysis and things like that. Journalism, I studied when I was in the US. It was a 1-year boot camp. You go in the back of a police car, you go to criminal court, you write about it. So it was very good training. And then I think for a journalist, if you have the more interest you have and the more hobbies you pursue, it's better for you.
Yeah.
And so that those three play out in that way.
Yeah, but journalism today has changed.
Yes.
Do you have to really try hard to set aside your beliefs, feelings, and separate it from facts and opinions? Can journalists in current times be objective?
Yeah. So you're talking to a columnist, which is about opinion.
Yeah.
So there are two hats that I wear. One is, and both are compromised, I'm sorry to say. Even in today's world and I was going to say in today's India, but even with Trump, the US is like that. Everywhere you go in the world, opinions have to be regulated. Most of us self-regulate because the cancel culture is so huge. So writing a column is having a voice, is having an opinion. So I do that. In wine, I write a column. There it's less problematic. But you write a column about Bangalore, you have to be careful what you say, and not, you have to be careful about sensitivities. Nange Kannada barutte, but a lot of people in Bangalore, they don't speak Kannada, and I don't think that's fair. Then objective journalism is when you write an article where you report on both sides of the stories. I try to do that. I'm a travel and food writer as well. So then you have to be a little suspicious because a lot of restaurants will open, they'll send, as I'm sure you get, Neha, with press release, you go there, they'll give you this fantastic story. And the hat you wear is mostly deep suspicion of their storytelling. And then you try to link it to other things so that there's a larger picture. So I think suspicion, point of view with a little bit of sensitivity and trying to get both points of view in an objective story is what I do.
Okay. Do you think there's a growing threat to journalism now? With, you have AI, ChatGPT.
I was going to say, I mean, the most obvious threat is AI and ChatGPT, but the other threat is also everybody is now a journalist. With TikTok, we don't have TikTok in India, but we have Instagram Reels and Stories, which is fine. Content creators are great, but the thing is, people see that and assume that is the truth. Whereas in journalism, we work so hard to present the truth as we think it is. We curate, we get multiple points of view. And the line between a food blogger writing about a restaurant where he's paid or she is paid to eat and therefore raves about it, that is a very dim line on Instagram. And unfortunately, many of the youngsters watch. I am on Instagram. I love Instagram. So then the trick is, how do you protect yourself from being duped? So you do what we do, which is talk to multiple sources, get a second opinion. So like that.
Have you figured how to get fit without exercise and losing weight without dieting?
So so losing weight without dieting is a little bit easier now for me. I'm trying intermittent fasting, which all of us are. I'm trying 1 meal a day. So 1 meal a day only works when I have biryani. I'm a vegetarian, but a veg biryani is quite good. So if you eat something heavy like a dal makhni or a vegetable biryani for lunch, which I might have today, then it will see you through to next morning. Intermittent fasting is a little harder. Exercising, my hack has been to do 5-minute spurts. So for example, if you call me Neha and I'm sitting down and writing, I'll try to force myself to take a walk. Just be active, use a little bit of movement. Tell yourself, after I come out of the restroom, I'm going to stretch because that's helpful. Those kind of things. Yeah.
So how many steps do you do in a day, if I may
Not a
ask?
lot. I mean, I aim for 10,000.
Yeah.
Depends on the day. Some days I've done 20,000, but most days it's about 6,000-7,000. Yeah.
Do you know our editorial director, Mr. Chawla, he does 27,000 steps per day.
Oh my goodness.
He says that even when he's at the airport, he walks around.
Wow. That's so good.
Yeah. So your career includes a range of roles from a journalist even to academic. What are the key challenges you face in each of these areas, and the different roles that you've taken up?
Yeah.
Which role is closest to you?
Bird watcher. That's easy. I do a bird podcast.
Yeah.
It's probably the one thing I do which is totally, if you want to call it, selfless. I love watching birds, and thankfully Bangalore gives the
Yeah.
option for that. I do it in the morning from my balcony, and I do the podcast, which is how I connect journalism and bird watching. I
Okay.
interview people from all over the world. So the other things, teaching I've done usually on request.
Yeah.
I give lectures on, my beat is narrative non-fiction, because
Okay.
I've written 6 books, all of which are memoirs.
Yeah.
So this one is called Food and Faith, which is about religion told
Yeah.
through food.
Okay.
And this one is Number Bangalore, which is a series of my columns.
Yeah.
So these are all with a point of view. So
Yeah.
I have learned how to do this type of writing, and so I
Yeah.
talk about it. I've been to many of the local universities. I've been to Christ's and everything, and abroad as well.
Yeah.
The most challenging one is coming up with ideas. I mean, my article is due next week. I have to write a column, and what am I to write about? So usually what I do is I look at the calendar. Is there an event or a holiday? As you know, Neha, we have to look a couple of weeks in advance, couple of months in advance if you're a magazine. And then so now I'm thinking of Navratri, Diwali already, and then you pitch an editor.
Yeah.
Christmas will soon come, so those that way.
Do you travel a lot too?
I'm trying not to, but
Okay.
yes, I was in Kurg yesterday, so
Yeah.
I do. I travel a
Yeah,
lot, and I write about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does it take to write about books? I've gone through a little bit about Monsoon Diary.
Yes.
I like the way you've included recipes, simple,
Yes.
recipes about rasam and ghee.
Yes. Yes.
So what does it take? Like, do you keep in mind your viewers, your readers, before you write it, or
Yes.
how does it work?
Yes. So like with singers, whether they are Hindustani or Carnatic
Yeah.
or jazz or even rock and roll, the audience is like a stable tanpura type of thing. But after a while, it becomes it's just in the background. With Food and Faith, an editor approached me and said, you've written about religion, but why don't we write it in a non-political way? And the way to do it is through the prasadams, as we say in Chennai, or prasad, as they say in North India.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. With Number Bangalore, I still do write a column for Hindustan Times called Bangalore Talkies,
Yeah.
and the collection of the columns. So the difficulty of it was, as you know, Neha, journalism is very immediate. A book has a longer lifespan. So the difficult part of writing this book was to take all the columns that I had decided to include it and try to make them timeless, which meant all the political immediate stuff that I had referred to went away. Food that has a longer lifespan came in. So that's the way you write a book, is mostly by thinking of it from a little long-term perspective. And then you have to sit down and actually write the bloody thing, which is not easy.
Yeah, but how the recipes that you've written in Monsoon Diary?
Diary.
How did you learn it? Like while growing up?
Yeah. So I come from a family of women who are very good cooks. As a result, I'm a terrible cook. It's easy. As a result of which, because I'm a bad cook, I tend to write about food. So the first thing everybody asks me is, "Oh, you must be a great cook," and I'm thinking to myself, "If only you knew." Writing about food is a different skill than actual cooking. Cooking is about proportion. Writing is about description. Writing is about finding a story in that food.
Yeah.
So I'm good at the second one.
Okay.
Not so good at the first one. With Monsoon Diary, one of my favorite quotes is about food writing is, in order to write about food, you need a very good appetite.
Yeah.
I have that.
Yeah. And also, you say you're an adventurous eater, right? So, have you? I mean, talk to us about your experiences. Have you tried anything like eating in the dark experience or going to a naked restaurant? There are different.
There are many of them.
So, do you have?
Yes, I claim to be one. But as my friend said, you're a vegetarian, which is hardly adventurous. So the same friend, he said, Shoba, eat non-veg before you die, because then the regret time will be less. So let's leave that out of it. The beauty of any constraint is, for example, if you can't eat meat, is that it allows you to focus your pitch and it allows you to become an expert in that. So my editors look for so if there's a new vegetarian or a vegan restaurant opening, they will call me because I'm a vegetarian.
Okay.
So in a way, you turn it into a positive.
Yeah.
But yeah, the blind restaurant I went to a while ago when I was in Vietnam, it was pretty incredible.
Okay.
And then the naked restaurant, not yet.
Anything else? Anything
Here in Bangalore, I'm constantly trying new things. So, for example, I'm planning to go on a pizza crawl and see which is the best artisanal pizza in Bangalore.
Okay.
We have several, including a brick oven, which is there.
Okay.
So, the idea would be you go, you pay for your food, you taste it so that you're not beholden to any restaurant.
Yeah.
You try 7 or 8 restaurants and then you choose one which you think is the best. And of course, you put the caveat and say this is a personal opinion, etc., etc. But I'm going to do that. And what I found was that in Zomato, you go, which is crowdsourced, and it asks for the best pizza restaurants. The crowdsourcing is not infallible. So, for example, there's a new one, Pizza 4 Ps, that has come up that's got very good reviews. 23rd Street Pizza that's come up, that's also, those are not there in Zomato. So for us, many of us who go there and then we look at how much it is, you have to be suspicious of anything, any recommendation. So I've learned how to do that.
Okay. Any other any other vegetarian restaurant in Bangalore that you would recommend?
So if I like heavy North Indian food.
Okay.
I get South Indian at home. So if you want tandoor in MG Road is a good one.
Okay.
I go to Royal Afghan, which is pricey, but I just go for the dal makhni.
Yeah.
I love it. And then Italian. So mostly I tend to go near my area.
Yeah.
I live walking distance from Commercial Street, and there you have some really, like there's Naveen Dosa Camp.
Yes.
CTR, in my opinion, in Malleshwaram has the best benne dosa. So I have Vidyarthi Bhavan, in my opinion, is overrated because first of all the lines on weekends are horrible. Then I go to Mahalakshmi Tiffin Rooms, also near Gandhi Bazaar.
Okay.
So I have a few. For samosas, I alternate between Bhagat Rams and Anand Sweets because they are in my area.
Yeah.
My desert island food, which is, if you could pick one dish that you could only have till somebody rescues you from this desert island, it would be samosas. So I'm always on the search for a good samosa.
Nice. I'm curious about your research on the cow in Hinduism and how it's a sacred symbol. Why was it important for you to depict the cow in your book, The Milk Lady of Bangalore?
Yeah. So, as you know, Neha, the cow is a very political animal. So, the way it started is, I live in Alsur and there are still people who will come in a cycle and sell you milk. So, my milk lady, Sarala, one day said, Amma, I want to borrow from you. I want 70,000 rupees as a loan. And I'll give you 2 liters of milk every day. I said,
that's you to increase the price.
And she was, So I said, no, Sarla, come on, I can't give you 70,000 rupees. What is this for? So then I was talking about it in my family with my husband. And he said, our parents, both our fathers are turning 80. And in Hindu culture, if you give a cow, it's a good thing. So you work out with her. So I told Sarla, okay, I'll give you some money, but I want to come and buy your cow. So we went to Tani Sandra, we went outside Bangalore, and I didn't anticipate that would become a book, but I started writing. I was writing for Mint Lounge then, and my column I wrote about it. It became such a huge hit. People would write from Delhi and say, I'm coming to Bangalore and I want to meet Sarla. So she became like a celebrity. That is how the book happened.
Okay.
Again, I tried to stay away from politics. I write about You know, Karnataka has Hallikar, Amrit Mahal, we have Desi breeds. How do you tell a Desi cow which will have a hump on its thing? Okay. So most of the milk we are all drinking is from what they call HF cows, which are Holstein Friesian cows. These are hybrids. So now when after writing that book, the one takeaway, I know you talked about life hacks. If you can afford it, buy A2 milk, which is another way of saying Desi cow milk. Yeah. I buy it from Akshay Kalpa. And then when you go to stores, if you see a Desi cow ghee, buy that. It's a little better, it's more expensive. But if more people buy it, the market forces will reduce the price of it.
Yeah. So but why did you want to depict cow in your book? As in, what was the reason behind it?
So it started as a humorous series of columns about, oh, look, I'm giving money and we're going to go buy a cow and everything. And then when it became a book, it became much more about, in every old culture, Neha, even the word, for example, capital, every old culture talks about cows in their mythology. It's not just Hinduism. Greek myths include the cow. So I got interested in why the cow became so huge in many cultures and has remained huge in Hinduism. Yeah. I think it's because, for example, when we describe the river, one of the poetic ways of saying it is the river Sindhu ran like how cows run to their calves. Yeah. Then there's one in Bengal, they call it Go Dhuli Bela, which means the cow dust time in the evening. Amongst Hindus, we have a concept called Gotra. Go means people who are born in the same cowshed. So, and then of course Gopal, Govardhan. Yeah. The Gau Mata is very, very important in Hinduism. So I became fascinated by the multi-pronged approach that cows had towards our culture. So I wrote about it. So even now on my street, if there's a cow, you'll still see people on the cycle, they'll touch the tail of the cow, which is where Shri, the goddess, is supposed to live.
Yeah. You also wrote about cow urine.
Yes.
So milk is my way of reconnecting with this patch of earth that I call home. There is an unhealable rift between a human and his native place, between the self and its true home. Talk about the power infused in these lines.
So what we've lost as a culture and a civilization, because all of us are now very mobile, is a link to the patch we all call home. And recently in Coorg, I was in a group where the Bunts are from Mangalore. So they were saying how their culture is very hospitable and how they fill a table. And I was in Coorg. Coorgs or Kodavas have a very distinct culture. The saving graces in India, everybody thinks their patch of land, like if you talk to a Chettiar, they'll be saying, oh, our culture is so great. So I find this fascinating that if you go to America, nobody knows where they've come from. Yeah. Whereas in India, you talk to a Gauda, they have Gauda food, Gauda festivals, Gauda way of wearing sari, the way the language is different. Not Kannada, even within Kannada, the language is different. So when we have this, it's amazing to be able to access it. And the lucky thing for us in Bangalore is, I go to Shivaji Nagar, there is St. Mary's Feast, there are mosques galore, and then there are communities. One of the most stunning things I've ever observed in Bangalore is a firewalking festival. Timidi, they call it in Tamil. Yeah. You go to Shivaji Nagar on a certain day, they will carry one kavadi, and a man will dress as a woman, and the goddess Angala Parameshwari will come into him. And the prasad is mutton. So I see this Timidi. As a vegetarian, you would think I'd be horrified by it, but I found something so sacred about it. So this guy, he's dancing, he's in a trance, then he goes and he lifts this and he throws it and everybody's catching it and eating it. So I find it very moving, and I find it wonderful that in Bangalore we have access to multiple faiths, and we have our Gurudwara in Alsur near the Conrad Hotel. So I think it's a celebration and we should all take advantage of it.
In your book, The Milk Lady of Bangalore, we've seen Sarla's as the main character, one of the main characters. So talk about your friendship with her. What does friendship mean to you? And in your personal life, how has friendship contributed to your growth?
So Sarala became my friend while writing the book, and I define friendship as somebody who opens up the world to you in a way that you would not have seen. And the second thing is somebody who comes to your house and you've gone to their house. And the third thing is somebody who teaches you. All three Sarala has done. She is the one who introduced me to the world of cows outside my house, and she has come home, and in fact she's brought stuff, and then I've gone to her house. And the third thing is that she taught me so much, and it became a book. So the way I made it okay, because we get paid for writing books, is by telling her and telling the public readers that I was going to give her whatever advance I got from the book, which she ended up using to buy a house or payment partly for a house. So it's a beautiful friendship. Now she has unfortunately switched to having a potikadai or a small shop where she sells other things along with milk. So it tells me that milk alone is not enough for her livelihood, and I feel a little sad about that. I asked her why. She said her 3 sons were not interested. One of them is selling distillery water. The one who was interested in cows doesn't want it's a very tough life. She said there's no Sunday off. Every day we have to milk cows early in the morning and in the evening. So it leads me to believe that the coming generations are not interested. So she's doing a bit of both. So yeah, Sarala has taught me a lot. It's a great friendship, and I cherish it.
And what about other friendships? Anyone else?
Oh, yeah. So I have nature friends. My birdwatcher friends also teach me a lot. And the reason I love nature is, Neha, in today's polarized world where we define ourselves by faith or caste, the nature lovers don't care. So we have this thing, we've had it for many years. It's called Bangalore Bird Day. Everybody is welcome. And the Bangalore Bird Day is organized by a bunch of young men from Basvangudi, which you can imagine is traditional Kannada Bangalore. And they all venerate Salim Ali, who happens to be a Muslim. All birders venerate Salim Ali. And the keynote lecture for our birthday, Bangalore Bird Day, is called the Joseph George Memorial Lecture, because Dr. Joseph George was the one who made group birdwatching happen in Bangalore. So you see, you have the main, the big faiths, and when you go birding, nobody cares what you wear or who you are. And connecting with people on a very human level is a wonderful thing. So that's what.
No one judging you.
No one judging you. Yeah.
There were these 6 character traits valued by cultures across the world according to the psychologist Martin Seligman, right? So we've mentioned wisdom, courage, temperance, justice, humanity, and the cow is supposed to have all these qualities. Can you explain this a little bit? Can you elaborate a little more on these?
So, I mean, if I start talking about the cow, that will be one podcast. But the cow has, our ancestors believed, 1 lakh plus gods in its body. Every part of its body is. And the reason cow milk is so good is because the sun rays fall on its hump and then go and suffuse the milk which comes out. So that's why desi cow, the hump breed. And Sarala would tell me, she'll say, Pavam, these cow animals, they walk. And I'll say, Sarala, why are you leaving your cows to walk on the street? Because and all these autos, everything coming in a high speed. She said, don't worry, in India, nobody will hit a cow. And she was right. So I think a connection to animals in today's day, we get through stray dogs and cows. I think cows, all the qualities that you described from Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, wisdom is, and I link to patience. A cow is a very patient animal. And then courage you see in the villages about this, during the races and the Rekla races and all that. The temperance, tolerance, patience, all of that is there, because you see cows just standing. In yoga, my master says you hold the pose and just stay still, don't move. And you see a cow when it's being milked, it just stands there. So it's very yogic. Of course, I am biased and I see all this in that animal, as do you. But some others may not, and it's okay.
I also read about the Asgar Koval temple, about how they offer savory prasadam, right? And have you come across any other temples who have something?
Savory, no?
Yeah.
It would be so nice.
Yeah.
Well, every temple has, so if you go to Tirupati, of course the laddu is very famous, but they also have a Tirupati, the vade is also there. And here near Commercial Street there's a Hanumar temple, and the Hanumar also likes that pepper vade is a savory prasad for that. But this one, the first time, this one that you mentioned, which I write about in Food and Faith, has a dosai. They call it a dosai. And of course, any South Indian likes dosai. And I thought, oh my, what is it, masala dosai? And I was thinking, as it turns out, it's almost like a vada, and they deep fry it. So it tastes delicious. And this one is near Madurai, this particular temple. So yeah, savory. And then I wrote about the langar, which is all savory, only one sweet, where you sit on the ground and you eat a full meal. So I really wanted to include all the faiths of India. So there is one Muslim place, the Dargah, that is in Ajmer, that I've included. I wanted to include Christianity, and I said, oh, St. Mary's Feast and Shrine. I grew up in Chennai, Shrine Velangani Feast. But all my Christian friends said, we call it feast, but it's not like a prasadam. It is more charity. So if you include it, it will be, disingenuous. So the one thing I wrote about is in Goa, and then I wanted to include the Sikh faith, which is there as a langar. Jains told me that they don't have the concept of a prasadam. So then no Jain temple was there. Parsis similarly. So I wanted it to be a pluralistic book. As it turns out, it's a largely Hindu book, because this concept of Nevedyam and Prasadam is a very Hindu thing to do. So yeah.
But why do you feel that if one wants to learn about Indian culture, it's through temples, churches, and the shrines here? So why temples? Why not weddings? Why not?
So I like many people who grow up in religious families. I, for a long time in my 20s and 30s, said I'm an atheist, and I believed it. I was anti-religion. I said, okay, my mother would say, yes, good things have come. I'll see a lot of bad things. The Crusades happened in Hinduism also. Today, even till date. But I found my way back to religion. And so now I would say I'm a Hindu. I am a skeptical Hindu. I'm a seeking Hindu, by which I mean that I see in most faiths, Neha, it is very gendered. A priest is a man, but women are not allowed to be. So I have a lot of problems with all that. So the food, writing about prasadams is a what we call the lowest common denominator, LCM, which is a good way without the politics to approach it. So I tried to do that, and I think yes, you can go to a wedding and you can see the rituals. But temples, any old, like whether it's an old Shrine Velangani church in Chennai, which is familiar to me, you go to an old place of worship, it has an energy. You don't have to be a believer, you just go there and it calms you down. So now during Christmas, my husband and I love going to midnight mass, and we always look for the oldest church in our area and we go. And again, you get calmed down by the music. Temples the same way. Gurudwara,
it's a different aura only when you enter these places. So you teach at IIM Bangalore. Which subject?
I taught.
Okay, you taught. Sorry. Which subject was it on?
Okay. So I pitched a course to them, which they agreed. I said, your students who are doing an MBA, they are very good at engineering, finance and everything. Why not we do a humanities-based course where I'll talk to them about art, architecture, design, food, all the things I'm interested in, quite natural, textiles. So they agreed to it, and it was more about the social aspect of being an MBA person. So I did a course for a couple of years actually, till COVID happened, where I would go 1 week, I would get experts, I'd talk to them about design. And the idea was that if you are an MBA person in a corporate world and you have a client who's interested in either design or wine, you need to talk to them. And
absolutely.
it went off very well.
Yeah, nice. You're also in the board of Neve Academy. Are you still there?
Yes.
So, what do you feel about education in today's time? And what about the different boards like ICSE, CBSE, Cambridge, IB?
Yes.
So what is important?
So with Neve, like with most schools, we Indians are used to a buffet, and so Neve began as an IB school, and now we have opened out other curriculums as well, largely because the parents demand it. And in India, what happens is parents who want to keep their children in India to write the medical school exams or IIT exams, they would want my other board, the ICSE board. Whereas a lot of parents of Neve want to send their children abroad, so the IB board is there. Then you have A levels and everything. So as far as the question, I get this question a lot. A lot of them, parents call me up and say, my daughter is in this board and I'm thinking of switching, and what should I do? I find if no matter what your end goal is, link it to your the calendar. So the ICSE board aligns with the exam timetable. So if you want to write your IITs or you want to write the medical exams, it's harder if you have a non-Indian board. So I would say don't say which is better. Just link it to the calendar, exam calendar. That's what because all of them have very good things, lot of strong positives. So don't think, just because my kid is in IB, they will lose out on certain subjects. Just because my kid is in CBSE or ICSE, they will lose out on applying abroad. Instead, go with the calendar, this academic calendar.
But a lot of parents are still very confused.
As we should.
Whether IB, because most people are saying that IB is the future, and
So
there
are a few schools. I think putting your child in school there are a few factors. One is, of course, the quality of the school, then the geographical location. A lot of people choose boards based on their location and where they live and whether there is an IB program. IB teaches you to think in a way that, and our local boards teach you to memorize. Now, which is more important? It's hard to say, I think. So most parents tend to choose based on, if they are very confident that their 16-year-old is going to go for the medical exams, they tend to choose the Indian boards because that's the only way you can manage it. If they are very confident that their kid is going abroad, they choose A levels or IB. Both of those are geared towards. But what that does is it shuts you out of the option of going studying in India.
So do you think in Indian syllabus, should Gita be included in the curriculum?
I didn't say Gita, I said Sanskrit. I said in my board, I told them, why don't you increase? Why are we studying German and French? Why not include Sanskrit as well? Because Sanskrit is a way to access all of Indian aesthetics, and it's a great language. Even if you're not a believer, if you're not a Hindu, it's a good way to act. So I promote vernacular languages. I mean Kannada, learn Kannada, learn Sanskrit. Gita, I don't think it's the purview of the school. I think a school should be secular. I think we leave the church and state separately. But languages, why not?
Yes, I agree. So what does integrity mean to you?
Integrity is very tough. It's a practice on a daily basis. For example, as a travel writer, I used to write for Condé Nast Traveler in the US, where the tagline was Truth in Travel. Now, Truth in Travel meant that they sent me to Japan, they paid for the full trip, which was $5,000. So it's not a small amount of money. And the idea is you go to Japan, you write based on your reporting. Today, any travel writer, no magazine or no newspaper can afford to send you on a trip. So essentially what you look to is having some resort or so recently I was on a trip to Andhra Pradesh, which was sponsored by a brand, quote unquote. So the way you opt for integrity among all these budget constraints is you tell the brand, okay, I'd like to come on your trip because I'm interested in this, but I'm not only going to write about your brand. So integrity is in our field involves disclosure, which is you tell your readers, this brand took me, and also you tell the brand, I'm not going to be very ultra complimentary about you. I will of course mention you because that is required.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to write about other brands that are smaller that cannot afford to take journalists on
Yeah.
trips. So it's a daily dance for all of us.
Tell us about something humorous from your 5 episodes of The Diary of a Foodie. And how did it happen?
So, Monsoon Diary gave me a lot actually. The book was shortlisted for the James Beard Award, which is a very prestigious award.
Yeah.
One of the articles I wrote as a preview to this book was awarded the James Beard Award. I think because of that, a film company from the US contacted me and said, we want you to be part of one episode called South Indian Food.
Okay.
And then once they met me, they put me in, because you're filming anyway, you might as well slot her in many episodes. So there was one on fast food. The most humorous thing was we went to Kerala to write about toddy or kallu. And I climbed up a coconut tree because we were trying to demonstrate how these toddy tapas and fell off. And it was caught on camera. Thankfully, they did not air it, but that was a funny thing.
No one got hurt, right?
I didn't get hurt.
So on a lighter note, what did you pack in your tiffin boxes for your girls?
Oh, Chadda stores nearby. Garuda Vega. So, until very recently, I was not the kind of mom who packed dabbas to. They both are in America.
Okay.
So, it's hard to do,
Yeah.
first of all.
Yeah.
And but recently, there is. If you ask my kids what they want from India, they'll say Maggi noodles, which is easy to send,
Yeah.
which is available most now throughout the
Yes.
world, but where they live, it's not.
Yeah.
So, but then I went to Bombay and there's a store called Chadda Stores in Mumbai, which will dehydrate upma or uppitu, which will dehydrate all your, whatever you want to send, and they will send it, and the kid has to just mix boiling water and eat it.
Wow.
Now the
Is it
question
still
is,
there?
it's still there, it's still there. Lot of Bombay moms do it. The question is, am I willing to put myself through that? And the answer is no. So once in a while, the dabba, the school dabba is a different matter, but now they're older, so we send Maggi noodles and chakli. I make a trip to Malleshwaram and I buy all that stuff and I send it.
Banana chips?
Banana chips, yes, yes, definitely.
How has the birth of your daughters impacted or changed your life?
I mean, I found religion after the birth of my daughters. So that's a huge impact.
Yeah.
Until then, you know, when you're single or when you're new married, it's very easy to say, you know, I don't believe in God, all this nonsense, old fashioned, I'm done with that. Then after your kid gets born, then you have to figure out, they were born in America. So then you're sitting in New York and you figure out how to give them Indian culture. And unfortunately or fortunately, the way to access Indian culture is generally through your religion, and Hinduism being a majority religion in India is a great way to access culture. So I found God. I would take them to the temple, I would teach them bhajans, I would cook Indian food, we would do Nevedyam. And so it's been going on now. My daughter is 27. So
What are their names?
Ranjini and Malini.
Okay.
So Ranjini went to engineering school and worked for Apple, which made her the most popular kid in the house because she gets discount on Apple products. And now she's quit and she's doing an MBA at Columbia University. Okay. Malini they both went to Aditi and NAFL. And Malini now works for a movie company in Hollywood.
Beautiful, lovely. Let's talk about your project Loom India. You're wearing this beautiful sari too. Tell us more about your interaction with weavers. I saw your website where you had something on Bandani, Patola. So some experiences if you could share.
So Bangalore has this wonderful exhibition called Vastra Bharana. Anybody who is interested in textiles and your viewers need to go for that.
Okay.
What is Vastra Bharana? It comes just before the festive season and usually around Gandhi Jayanti, 2nd October around that time. And it's held at the Chitrakala Parishad. It's organized by the Craft Council of Karnataka.
Okay.
By ladies who have forgotten more about textiles than I will ever know. So I used to go to Vastrabarna to buy, for Diwali sari and everything, and got talking to them. And they tell you lots of things. For example, they tell you what attracts ladies of their generation, they are older than me, to Indian saris is what they call the purity of the unstitched cloth. Okay. What does that mean? Every old culture, which is a weaving based culture, they don't like needles. So this thing is done without needles.
Okay.
This is there
Tassels.
tassels. So they don't they think a sari or any textiles. If you look at dhotis also, or the thing that we do in the end did not used to be there. Falls not there. Keep putting a pin here, they didn't approve of it. So I learned so much about it. I said, so they called it the purity of the unstitched cloth, and that captivated me, and I started talking to them and learned more about them. And they said this petticoat is an English invention. All this colonial, so the petticoat is unnecessary. In olden days in India, every
like a dhoti
they would like a kache. So, and not just a kache, even within Karnataka, the Gaudas wear it differently. The Kannada Brahmins wear it differently. Every region has a different style of wearing. So at home also I wear a sari without a petticoat. I wear it in the kache style. It makes sense. And they would say things like, this fabric is so nice. Why are you putting all this petticoat business and everything? So then what happened, I learned a little bit, became interested. And then there is a brand called Taneira in Bangalore, which is a sub-brand of Titan, a Tata company. So I approached them and I pitched them like how we pitch articles to editors. I said, let me do something called Project Loom. Or you buy from different parts of India. I will go to these places and I will interview the karigars and I will write about it. So then it was approved, and then I had a film crew, I had a website designer, I went with them. We did 5 episodes and it was an amazing experience.
What did you learn from that?
I think if one line, our Indian textiles are the most spectacular in the world, and if you cultivate an appreciation for it, you'll never buy anything. None of these name brand stuff. I also buy name brand stuff, but the deep appreciation for Indian textiles that I have came from that whole thing.
See, from Chennai, do you go to Sundari Silks?
Yes, of course. But I know you like hacks, Neha, so or your viewers like it. One hack is, suppose you are in any state, if you go to Kanchipuram, a lot of people go there to buy. Visit the Weaver Service Center or WSC. In every state has it set up by the government, and the government pays for the weavers to do their research there. So go to the Weaver Service Center in every place that you go, every state, and you will find some amazing saris at very good prices.
What about your sari? Would you like to say something about it?
Yeah, this I got in Kanchipuram.
Okay.
It is not
I love the color actually, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and vernacular languages have colors like onion skin pink, coffee kottai brown. So it's very, very rooted to the earth. This is a Ganda Berunda, which is the Wadiyar family crest.
Okay.
So if you look at Pramoda Devi Wadiyar, who is the current queen mother, if you believe in all that, she will wear necklace with the Iruthalai Pakshi or the double. So the Ganda Berunda, and even His Highness Yaduvir will wear that. So these are motifs that are come from nature. So the Rudraksha is very common. Then you have the Annapakshi, which is looks like a swan or a duck, depending on who you ask. Again, very common. Then even the designs at the end. So there are words for this. This is all flower vines.
Okay.
And then this also this is the Rudraksham. So every
there's a story behind every sari, basically. That's beautiful. So what has been the most rewarding aspect of this project for you?
I think learning about the glorious variety that is India and that is reflected in textiles, jewelry, food is as nectar.
Do you think Indian designers exploit our viewers?
Yes, actually, some designers do.
Yeah.
A lot
How
of
do
them.
you feel about it?
So good and bad. When Sabyasachi did this silk screened Indian motif outfit and sold it in H&M,
Yeah.
a lot of my gurus in textiles said, first of all, he's using polyester, then he's using silk screen, he's created all this motifs, selling it in H&M to a global market. Wouldn't it have been nice if he had used our weavers, given some credit, paid it backwards to them? So there is a fair point about that. So there is politics in this textiles too. So the good ones don't, or rather at least they share the profits. But by and large it is a very skewed market where the karigar gets the least and the distributor or the designer gets more. And you can argue about whether it's okay, the designer is popularizing it and he should because it's their design.
Yeah.
So that's a very political thing.
Yeah. How do you compare the Indian weaving technique to Japanese technology? They've perfected this water jet shuttle and the shuttle is loom. So do you think India should have a look at the Japanese technology and adapt something to?
So I have to look into water jet.
Yeah.
I will do that, or maybe you can tell me. But power looms are there quite widely in India, where hand weaving is a minority.
Yeah.
Culture loses if economy rises. So you go to Orissa, there's no industry, but still our old culture, crafts and arts are there, whether it's in jewelry or anything. So then my husband is in finance. So he and I have this running argument about whether India, of course, the economy has to improve, but do we lose the culture? So it's a tough thing.
Yeah. Could you elaborate on what you believe sets hand-woven saris apart in terms of craftsmanship and cultural significance?
Everything. We were just talking about what separates hand-woven craft in the touch of the hand, the fact that it is not consistent.
Yeah.
So if you go to a restaurant, both of us write about food, one of the big things in restaurants is consistency. Every dosa has to be the same size, same look, because the customers. In hand woven anything, there are differences. It's an art. So the feel of the imperfections of hand woven thing is an important thing.
Yeah.
The fact that every aspect of the sari means something. So for example, it was using our hands that we decided how broad this would be. It was using the shoulder that we decided about the pallu length. So the body is used to define design elements. That's very unique in a sari.
Yeah. So I read your article on Bhutan. You began that article by saying, does thinking about death 5 times a day increase your happiness? What made you make this statement?
So you go to Bhutan and you will see all over the country there are these ancestral worship images. It's actually an object that they keep. And in Bhutan, maybe because nature is so prevalent, the spirits and the ghosts and bhutas, everything is part of how they talk. They don't view them with fear like how we do in cities. You can also see this in coastal Mangalore or coastal Kerala. They have the Teyyam, they have the Bhutakola, and in Kantara, the movie, you can see that. So for them, the movement between the dead and the alive, ancestors and our current, is very seamless. It goes back and forth. In Bhutan, as a happiness hack researcher, I did this exercise where if you think about your mortality, will you become a better person? I think if you look at Tibetan Buddhism or in Bhutan, the answer is yes. So don't think you're like this super person who's going to live forever. You're fallible. You are mortal.
Bhutan ranks high on the world happiness scale also. And one of your guide, I think, told you that when they talk about happiness in Bhutan, they mean collective happiness and not individual. How do you think we as Indians can adopt this and make this a way of life?
I think India is a little better than very individualistic societies like America has become. I am familiar with America more than Europe. But in America, for example, the notion of having your mother-in-law stay with you, even if you don't particularly want it, is just not done. They will stay in a hotel. Whereas in India, because of budget, because of family expectation, because of what other people will say, we are forced to make compromises about relatives, about weddings, about dragging our kids to weddings, even though they do. And that is collective happiness. You sacrifice a little bit for the sake of it. And I think that's a good way to be. Now America is coming back to our cultures where now all the happiness research says you be part of a community, that is the best way to be happy. So they're sort of coming back to our style.
You must have visited a lot of monasteries. And could you talk about any one that moved you, like any particular one, and how was your experience?
So I'm not getting the name right, but there was one monastery in Bhutan where the penis of a man was viewed as the worshipful object. And it just blew my mind because you'd see images of this everywhere and people didn't care about it. And I was like, how is this not obscene? And how are people not so taken? And how is this allowed in the modern world? So that monastery in central Bhutan blew my mind because of the way they approached it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why did they do that? Did you dig in more?
The theory given to me was this monk wanted to remove all this obscene, all the separations that we talk about, the obscene, non-obscene. So in a way, thinking about dead will make you better alive. So remove all the obscene stuff. Don't think of it as obscene, it's part of life.
That's like how you brush your teeth.
Like that.
So I also read about Druk air flight that you took from Delhi to Paro, right? So thank God it was a smooth landing.
Yes.
But any other fascinating adventure trips like this that you've done?
So the Drucker people, when I landed, they told me that this Paro landing is done, they gave some numbers, I have 15 pilots in the world.
And 24
24. And they are all mostly Bhutanese. So for example, the way they explained it is, if your Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji comes to Bhutan, they will send pilots, because he flies on our airline, they will send pilots like months in advance for this Paro landing they will train. I thought that was such a good image and any foreign leader, whoever comes, the training needed to land in Paro requires months of training.
So anything else that you did adventures like this?
So I'm an adrenaline junkie. So I have jumped off planes. I have
in New Zealand.
Not in New Zealand. It was in America.
Okay.
My brother and I, many years ago, we decided to go skydiving. I have done paragliding in New Zealand. I have not yet done bungee jumping. Whitewater rafting I have done. So I am an adrenaline junkie. In India, the best way to get adrenaline, if you're ride an auto rickshaw at fastest speed and tell them just go fast.
Exactly. So now we're going to talk about your book, Nama Bangalore, if you're fine with this. Can you tell us a little more about your book? Why did you want to write this? What made you think of it?
So I've written a column on Bangalore for the last 4-5 years, and then an editor approached me and said, why don't we write a book on Bangalore? The beautiful thing is there are a lot of books on Bangalore, including some written by my friends. Kirtana Kumar has written a book called Bangalore Blues. There are books on the courtyards of Bangalore, the kattes, the Tulsi kattes. There are books on nature in Bangalore. So mine is part of that whole canon of books on Bangalore. This is different only because it is again one person's point of view, written with the point of view but reported. And I told you the hard part was trying to remove all the things that are urgent, that we all love in journalism. All the urgencies and the deadline-oriented stories had to be removed. These are, and then the headings were on food, on drink, on textiles, fashion, those kind of things. It's been received really well, partly because it's a book on Bangalore. So I'm very thrilled about how it is.
And I also noticed that there are a lot of comparisons with Chennai. Is it because your heart and soul is...
I think if you grow up in a city as distinct as Chennai, I'm happiest when I land there. I know the place in a way that I don't know Bangalore. I've lived in Bangalore for nearly 20 years. But still, the subtleties still escape me.
What's your favorite part of the city?
In this city? The greenery, the fact that it truly is a tolerant city. So you go to Chennai and you don't speak Tamil, they won't engage. They are rude like the French. Whereas in Bangalore, what happens is, because it is at the crossroads, it's near Andhra Pradesh, it's near Tamil Nadu, Kerala. And for me, the auto drivers are they will speak to you in Telugu, they'll speak Malayalam, they'll speak Kannada, they'll speak Tamil. So when I learn, but that said, I would tell your viewers, try to learn Kannada because it will open up Karnataka to you in a way that is not possible without the language, and they appreciate it. And so I learned through a teacher, and I practice and I make mistakes, but it really is wonderful.
I also read your article, I think last month or something, you wrote about the traffic, you wrote about the infrastructure. It desperately needs help. So what do you feel? And
I think more of us should take the metro, and more of us should tweet about it and write about it and post photographs on Instagram. The Bangalore metro is finally, it has reached Whitefield, it has reached Kengeri. I think if people like us write about it rather than braving the traffic, then I think it's a doable solution. On a policy level, I would like to think that Bangalore's infrastructure traffic has reached the point where it's so bad that the pendulum will now swing back and people will actually do something. For example, take the airport bus. It's quite good, the Vayu Vajra. So those things, public transport.
So which is the greenest part of the city?
Lal Bagh, by a margin.
And which is the most dangerous part of the city?
Haven't gone, but I would imagine if you go at 1 a.m. in the city area, which I'm not familiar with, which is why it would be dangerous to me because I don't know it.
5 interesting facts about Bangalore, which we all don't know. Like for example, New York has 800 languages that are spoken in the city. Honking is illegal in New York. Homeowners can request free trees in New York. So is there anything unique in Bangalore?
Oh yeah. So this is not in the book, but I learned the first electric bulb in Asia happened in Bangalore.
Okay.
And the oldest part of the city that you think of Indiranagar now and you think 12th Main. Indiranagar is older than Nagarpet and Chickpet. So it's opposite. What we think of as new part of Bangalore are actually older. Number 3, Bangalore's, it's hard to get a bad vade in Bangalore, wherever you go. And number 4 is Karnataka has more Jnanapith awardees than many other states, so which people don't know. Literature is very strong in Kannada. Kannada literature is very strong. Number 5 is the Molkalmuru saris of Karnataka are unfortunately losing their place to Kanchipuram saris. So today's Kannadiga brides tend to buy Kanchipuram instead of the Molkalmuru.
Thank you. Any new app used especially in Bangalore?
I'll tell you one that I use an app called Vivino. It's for wine, and you take a photograph of a bottle you're drinking. It's a great way to store it because it will immediately spit out some information about it. It will give you a price point, and I use it to remember that. That's one I use.
Okay. And how well are you familiar with the metros here?
Not as well as I should be.
I've taken the purple line and it's pretty nice. Which is the most fashionable area of Bangalore?
So, Naval Road.
And your favorite restaurant?
Oh, that's hard. I'll tell you CTR.
Or
now it's called Sri Sagar.
Okay.
It's in Malleshwaram.
Okay.
It used to be called Central Tiffin Room. I think everybody should go there once at least.
I even went to Rameshwara Cafe.
Yes, they have branches now. CTR has no branch. There's the one and only.
What is the most popular dress code in Bangalore, you feel?
Now, by proxy, like if you go to Christ, the uniform is a salwar kameez. I think it's more and more Western, which I'm fine with. I also do that. But the sari is losing ground. So the most popular dress is, I would say, is salwar kameez.
And Bangalore or Bengaluru, which one do you?
I call it Bengaluru. But the thing is with this I told my editor who sits in Delhi, I said we should say Namma Bengaluru. And he said, Shoba, if people do a search on Amazon for a book on Bangalore, and if the person is sitting in Delhi or Bombay, do you think they're going to put Bengaluru books or Bangalore? So this is a compromise, Namma Bangalore.
For SEO.
Yes, for SEO.
Which is the most expensive bar of Bangalore?
Again, that Vittal Malya Road, Lavelle Road,
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
And any good spa experience in Bangalore?
So many. I've written about it in this actually. So many other. I go to Lalit Ashok because it is good, gives you the sort of 5-star experience, but not so expensive.
Okay.
That's mine.
Okay. Famous bakery?
You. Albert Bakery in my area.
How and why do you think the Bangalore dining scene transformed so drastically? Like, it's huge now. I think I would even compare it. Would you compare it to New York or Mumbai?
Yeah, Mumbai I would compare to New York.
Yeah.
Here, for example, there are Ethiopian cuisine hard to find. In New York and perhaps Mumbai, you can find more types of cuisines.
Yeah.
But that said, Bangalore, people are adventurous eaters. So now it reflects that.
Yeah. So this is some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Your favorite book?
My Family and Other Animals by Gerald Darrell.
The city that personifies you?
Chennai.
The writer with the most influence on you?
Ayn Rand. I read her book Fountainhead when I was 17 and my mind was blown.
One thing that has never interested you enough, though most others find it interesting?
We talked about this a little earlier. I have so many friends who are whiskey and single malt drinkers, and I don't know anything about it. So spirits would be.
Yeah. One thing you find interesting but are yet to write about it?
What I am calling non-Brahminical tribal gods and goddesses of Bangalore. The Mutyalamma, Angala Parameshwari, all of that.
Okay. What books are on your nightstand?
Oh, currently Light on Yoga by BKS Iyengar because it's a hack book. I'm trying to improve my yoga. A book of poetry and then a book on tribal art by Venkatraman Singh. Yeah.
Okay. And what was the last great book that you read?
I reread Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie recently.
Okay.
It is a great book.
Okay. What do you read when you're working on your book?
Mostly things related to the book.
Research. Has a book ever brought you closer to another person or come between you and someone?
So the books that have brought me closer to other person is Bangalore has a vibrant publishing scene about nature.
Yeah.
And so since I'm a birder and I desperately want to be part of that nature community.
Yeah.
There is a small publishing house called Eco Edu.
Okay.
ECO-EDU.
Okay.
They've published pocket-sized books called Avenue Trees of Bangalore, Creepers of Bangalore. And it's a photograph and you learn and you see, Krumbigal, Gustav Krumbigal, who is a German, he's the one who planted all this flowering trees of Bangalore. So I read those books and I try to memorize it because it will make me seem cool among my friends, bird watchers.
And it seems more easy to read also, like you were describing.
Correct.
Which subjects do you wish more authors would write about?
If there's a way of making engineering and maths understandable to morons like me, that would be very welcome. So those kind of books is harder to find. You go look for a book on how there's maths for dummies, but maths for more dummies than dummies is what I'm looking for.
What moves you most in a work of literature?
Oh, the metaphors. I mean, some writers are just so good at connecting things.
Yeah. And what's the best book that you've received as a gift?
Oh, recently I got a book called Birds in Sanskrit Poetry. That was it connected both my interests. Yeah.
And are there any books that have been stuck with you from childhood or from what you've been reading to your children?
What do I reach for when I'm in a funk? Bertie Wooster, Jeeves, PG Wodehouse, all childhood habits.
Yeah.
Still, you eat your rasam chadam and you read your PG Wodehouse. All is good in the world.
How do you feel about the phrase "all ordinary people are extraordinary"?
Oh, I completely believe it. Yeah, and that's how I write.
Last one. Any quirky bookshops that you've come across in your travels?
In my travels, I was going to say in Bangalore.
Yeah.
In my travels, many Shakespeare and Co. in New York is a favorite one. That's very quirky as well. Then there are thematic bookshops all over the world that I love. So one will be only for design. Museum bookshops, very good because they link art and books.
Yeah. And just last thing, you've received awards. What is your greatest achievement and how do you feel about the awards that you've received?
I've not received too many awards. I've
Yeah.
only got the James Beard Award.
Yeah.
And I've got a Pulitzer Fellowship
Yeah.
for I was one of the top 3 graduating, but those are nothing. I think to get a Jnanpith Award would be something to talk about. So I would not, even though I say in my bio award winning,
Yeah.
that's a bit of posturing. I'm not yet there.
And what has been your greatest achievement so far? What do you feel?
Hopefully that I've raised good human beings.
And any future plans?
So I want to write about trans and tribal religion.
Okay.
I don't know how I will do it, but I plan to do it.
Thank you very much for being here. It was such a positive and good session with you.
Thank you, Neha.